Good morning, everybody. I am Carolyn with Midwest Manufacturers Association, and today we thank you for joining us as we get started with our webinar for marketing for manufacturers. And today we are going to be discussing the power of a marketing audit and integrated strategy. And our presenter is Justin Curley from Top Floor. And we also want to thank our webinar sponsor, Innovative Builders, Erectors, and Developers. And from there, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Justin. And please, we've got the chat open, so pop in questions as we go. All right.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Justin.
And thank you for joining us today. As mentioned, I'll be talking about how you can take advantage or execute a marketing audit and then put that into an integrated strategy. I do have some time set aside at the end for questions, but if I'm talking about a topic or going through something too quickly, or if you have a question about it, again, just pop that question in the chat. I'm happy to kind of field those things as we go along, or just let you know that I'll get to a question in a future slide. But as mentioned, my name is Justin Curley, one of the owners of Top Floor. We are a digital marketing agency based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if you do have some questions that are maybe more specific to you and your business, you can feel free to either connect with me on LinkedIn, or if you want to send me an email, you can do that as well. I'm happy to spend some time and answer some specific questions if you have those as well. So I've been in the digital marketing industry for, 13 years now. Mainly my background has been with search engine optimization, or SEO, as you might know it. And then now just building that marketing services, so everything from PPC, social media content, account-based marketing, a lot of just different things based on the needs of the clients that we work with. So diving right in. So some of the challenges that I see a lot of times. So we work primarily with industrial clients, manufacturers, or people in that B2B space. A lot of people that we start to talk to or we onboard and start working with are kind of stuck in this place where, there's this kind of old way of doing things and this new way of doing things. And usually this is kind of a catalyst as maybe a change in ownership, maybe a younger generation is taking over, or maybe somebody comes in and acquires a company. But they essentially say like, hey, we're ready to kind of do things differently. So, whether they're stuck in kind of just doing trade shows and advertising and trade publications, there's kind of this idea that that's just how it's always worked for us. Obviously, they've built a successful business, so it's hard to really it's hard to argue against that. But that means that you're really heavily reliant on that word of mouth or referral business. So it's really hard to kind of create predictable growth, and where are we going to get our next contract from? So this usually then is also then tagged with a underinvestment in marketing. And as those of you who are actively marketing your companies, you realize that marketing isn't really just like a switch that you can flip and all of a sudden you're going to start getting some sales, especially in the B2B and manufacturing space. These sales cycles are very long. So that makes it very difficult to not only just attribute what you're doing to a specific activity or a sale to a specific activity. It means that once you start this stuff up, it might take 6 months, 9 months, a year plus before some of the fruits of that labor is borne out. So my goal here is to talk to you through what we can do about that. But I also want to just share some of the statistics for me that I think just really kind of hammer this point home of how important marketing is for all businesses, but specifically B2B companies. So right now, it's estimated that about 70% of the buying process for B2B buyers is completed before even engaging with sales. So that's checking out your website, doing maybe even looking at some competitors, analyzing the services that are available there, looking through reviews. Just a lot of stuff is done kind of in the background before they even raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in talking about what's happening here. And I think a big reason for that is about 71% of B2B buyers are now millennials and Gen Z. So that means that they're younger, they've grown up with digital, they've grown up with computers. This is kind of where their comfort zone is. And again, that bears out with the next stat here that 75% of B2B buyers do prefer a rep-free experience. Now, that can be really great, like while you're shopping for something, maybe it's from Amazon, but with B2B purchases, what this tends to lead to is some purchase regret. Maybe they did some research and they just missed the mark, or they ordered the wrong product or something along those lines. So really creating a hybrid approach is critical of how do we attract people with our marketing efforts, but then make sure that sales gets involved so that when they are ready to make that purchase, they are purchasing the right thing from you so that they're satisfied. You don't have to worry about angry customers or people trying to return stuff they've purchased from you. The last thing I'll bore you with here is about 89% of B2B purchases right now involve 2+ departments. So the reason I want to bring this up is as we're putting these audits together and the strategy with it, you do have to consider that you're not just speaking to one person. Like maybe that might be your core target. Who does this conversation start with? But you also have to understand that this might go through not only operations, but purchasing. It could go through CEOs. You just kind of need to understand who eventually is going to see this and make sure that you have the ability to speak to all of those stakeholders along the way. So where to go from here? Really kind of the process for us when we're working with a client is to really start at the auditing stage, really just where's the current state. This really helps us lay a foundation and get a better understanding of where we are today so that when we talk about a future state, we can develop a plan that's going to get us from point A to point B. So that's where that strategy then comes in. You take the findings from your audit, the understanding of your customers, and then you formulate that strategy, the different channels you'll use, the messaging that you'll use to reach out to them. And then the execution phase, or you can call them campaigns, is when you're actually, the rubber meets the road. You're actually doing the work, you're putting out the plan, and then you can then get into the analysis phase where you're tracking those results, comparing them to your desired outcomes, and then modifying your strategy as needed. So step one, know thyself, conduct an audit. So an audit can be any number of things, but for me, what I think are the probably most impactful things to take a look at is going to be marketplace trends. Are there just shifts in the way that people are buying within your industry? Are there products that are revolutionizing the market, or things that you need to be aware of? Because nothing really exists kind of in that vacuum. Then taking a look at the competition. Now the goal there, and I'll get into it a little bit more when we talk about competitor audits, the goal is not to copy them, but it's really just get a better understanding of what they're doing, what you think is effective for them, and then modifying that into your strategy to see, okay, what can be effective for us. And then the final one is brand perception. Just how do people view you, whether that's your website, the reviews that you're getting. Are you a key player? Are you an emerging player? Or are you well established? Just again, all of those factors impact the different strategies and channels that you might end up using. So really, you need to make sure that this is an honest assessment of your strengths and weaknesses. It's very easy for every company to say, well, we're the greatest, everybody should work with us. And while that may be true, that might not be what the perception is out there. So really being able to critically look at those strengths and weaknesses, analyze them, and see, are these things that we can take advantage of, or things that we need to maybe work on as a company, and then prioritize those efforts accordingly. And then, as I mentioned before, understanding the market. Nothing exists in a vacuum. You can put together the best strategy in the world, but if you're putting it out into a place where everybody's doing the exact same thing as you, it's very easy to get lost in that noise. So again, being aware of who the target audience is and how you can connect with them online is critical. So this is kind of the qualitative phase, and this is just a template, a screenshot of something that we use internally, of really just taking a look at strengths and weaknesses. At this phase of the audit, it's really kind of more qualitative than quantitative. We're just trying to get an understanding of what we think our strengths are within the marketplace, what our weaknesses might be, and then some potential opportunities. So this isn't a fully in-depth SWOT analysis where you need to get every department involved and everybody's analyzing their services, but you do want to get kind of a little bit bigger of a picture than just, hey, I want to sell more of X. How do we do that? So really taking a step back and looking at things that could be strengths within the digital space. So if you are just looking at, okay, we have a really good social media presence, that's great, that's a strength. But I would encourage you to also take a look from a business standpoint. What are your strengths? Is it fast turnaround times? Is it on-time deliveries? Is it great customer service? What are those types of things that you can then promote within your marketing and make sure that you work within the messaging that you have, while similarly looking at your weaknesses and understanding, are these things that we can downplay? Are these things that we need to work on maybe outside of marketing, and I can bring it to the attention of the team, like, hey, this is the perception that we have right here. And then they can make some strides towards working towards improving those. And then opportunities, again, those are just things that, okay, we've looked at my strengths, I've looked at our weaknesses, we've looked at the marketplace. Where do we have an opportunity to put ourselves out there and gain some awareness? The next step is, again, a qualitative look at the competitive landscape. So again, this is by no means the way to do it, but one of the things that we do is we try to compare, we call it mind share, but essentially just how aware is the market of a particular brand. You think the upper right quadrant, that's high mind share. That's people, those are well-established companies that, when you think of this particular industry, this is the company that you think of. And then on the flip side of that, on the low end of it, these are people who maybe are either emerging or might not even just be, people might not be aware of them at all. They're low mind share. And then on the y-axis is resources. And again, this just sometimes has to be a little bit of a feel, maybe as you're talking to customers in the marketplace, you're always coming up against a particular competitor. That might tell you they're investing heavily in marketing and in sales. They're getting their name out there. Or you could take a look at something like a Zoom Info, or Apollo is another tool that we use as well, where they can actually show you, okay, here's how many sales and marketing people they have internally. Here's what their spend looks like. And then you can kind of say, all right, this is somebody who maybe they're low mind share, but they're spending a lot of money to try to get their name out there. They're in this Q2 section versus somebody who might be well established in the industry in that lower right-hand corner, but they don't really invest in marketing and in sales because they kind of just assume, well, everybody knows who we are. We don't need to do that. So again, this is really, again, more of an exercise to kind of just get people, I think the visual of it is really helpful to kind of say, okay, here's where we are today. Here's where we'd love to be. And here's kind of all of the people in the way. And then also as you're looking through in these next steps, as we look at particular channels, you can get a better understanding of, okay, this is something that we want to either emulate or improve upon based on where they exist within this kind of matrix. All right, so now as we take a look at the digital footprint, there's kind of 6 areas that I've really identified that you really want to take a look at. The first being SEO, really just understanding how users find you when they're searching for things online, whether that's Google. I think they call it GEO technically now, so generative engine optimization, but even within things like ChatGPT or Gemini, people are typically searching for answers in those. So understanding how you kind of fit within that grand scheme of things can really help you establish where you are and where you need to be. Paid ads, those are ways for you to force your way into that mind share of when people are searching online. So you've all seen them on a Google search. There's ads up at the top. You can do this within social platforms as well, like LinkedIn and Facebook. And then any display ads that you might do as well. So if you're just on another website, say you're on ESPN or something like that, and you see an ad on there, those are display ads that you can put out there to try to reach your audience and get a bigger footprint as well. And then, so I broke out social media on its own because this is more the organic side of things. So these are just posts that they're putting out there, how they're promoting their business, how they're talking about their business. You can see what's posted and how they're connecting with their audience there. And then content is kind of the biggest piece. And I'll talk about how you can effectively audit content, but this is really anything from written word like blog posts or case studies, could be videos, could be podcasts, just any content that they're taking the time to develop and deliver into the marketplace would be the content piece. And then website. So for here, this is mainly looking at things like usability, accessibility, and overall just look and feel. Does this feel like a company that's a valid and legit company and an opportunity for someone to work with? Those are all things that can impact a potential customer. And then finally, reviews. So what are the people actually saying about you and your competition so that you can use some of those insights into your marketing? All right, so looking specifically into the SEO channel. So these are 2 tools. If you don't have these active today, I would encourage you to do so. They're both free tools. You can install them onto your website. You can start to gather some data. The best time to gather data was yesterday. The second best time is today. So if you don't have these things, don't feel bad about it, but definitely take the time to put these out there. The first one I want to bring up is Google Search Console. So this is a tool that kind of provides you some insights into how Google sees your website. So there's kind of 2 main areas here. They will actually provide you with, here's a list of the search terms that when somebody searches it within Google, you showed up for. So that's impressions. And then also how many times your website got clicked then from those. So you can get some really good information about what people are searching for. Do you show up for it? Do you get clicked on when people search for it? But then they'll also provide you with some insights into maybe some issues that you have on your website. So things like slow loading times or pages that are broken. They call it core web vitals. So they'll give you some insights into things that you might need to fix on your website. So this is, again, an internal tool. It's not really going to provide you any external data, like you can't see this for your competition, but it's a very good tool for you to be able to understand where you are today. Similarly, Google Analytics, I'm hoping you're all familiar with that one, but this one actually tracks the users once they get to your website. What pages are they viewing? How many pages do they view? Do they, with some basic configurations, you can track things like form submissions as well. So how effective is your website at, well, once people get to it, at keeping them engaged and actually converting them into customers? So those are two tools I would encourage you to get with right away, get those installed. And then as you start to take a look at the competition, you might need to rely on some external tools. Now, a lot of these are going to be paid, so I admit that fully up front, but I will say there are some free versions of them, and they do still provide some useful insights into them. The one that I typically use the most is SEMrush, but there are several others, Ahrefs, Majestic. And what these tools do is they will track billions of keywords, and then basically say, okay, here's where the current rankings are in these snapshots. They'll also include things like, hey, there was a map function on here, or maybe there was an answer that was provided, or an AI overview, so that you don't just say, okay, we ranked #1, that's great, but you might rank #1, but it's underneath a map, it's underneath ads, it's underneath other things, so you can kind of see, okay, how effective is this keyword for driving people to my website? So you can view the competition, you kind of just put in whatever website you want to take a look at, and they will give you some information on that as well. So I wanted to include a couple screenshots. Again, I made sure I used a free version of the tool. So these are all things that are available to you. You just have to create an account. This, again, specifically is from SEMrush, but you just put in a website. So I put in ours. It will provide you some information of like how much organic search traffic typically happens. Again, they use formulas to calculate this. So there's no way that they're going to be able to tell you exactly how much traffic is there, but they give a pretty good estimation of how much traffic on a monthly basis comes to the website. So in this case, a little over 2,000 visits a month. And then it will also provide you what that looks like over time. So since this looks like 2 years, how has traffic kind of changed over time? Are we growing or are we going down? Where is that coming from? But the useful information comes a little bit lower. Again, since we would have Search Console, the organic keywords might not be as useful for me looking at my own website, but looking at the competition, you can get a sense, okay, these are the keywords that they're ranking for. I really like this as well, the keywords by intent. If the vast majority of traffic is informational, that's typically branded related searches. So while that's great, you obviously want to show up for your brand and get people in. If your goal is to attract new people who maybe have never heard of you before, you really want to make sure that you're getting more traffic from commercial and transactional type keywords. Those are people that are looking for specific services or even to buy specific products. So you can get a sense of, okay, what does this breakdown look like? What kind of brand awareness do they have? But also, how effective are they at just getting new people into their website for just the various products and services that they sell? So again, some useful insights you can gain from these tools on the competition. Diving into next on the social ads side of things. Obviously, if you have run campaigns in the past, you want to start there, load into those ad platforms, review past numbers, things like how many impressions did you get, how many clicks did you get, how many conversions, so form fills, how much data did you collect there. That's going to help you set some expectations for your future efforts. But a lot of these platforms also give you the ability to look at the competition. So you won't get the same statistics. You won't see how many impressions, how many clicks, things like that. But you will be able to see the various ad creative that they use, the messaging that they have, and any different calls to action that they might be using to get people to interact with their ads, et cetera. So on the LinkedIn side, they have what's called LinkedIn Ad Library. You can search for a particular company. In this case, I just looked up John Deere. And you can see the various ads that they're running. So as you're looking at the competition, again, the goal with a competitive audit is never to say, hey, I really like this, I want to copy it. Because again, if you're just doing the same exact thing that they're doing, you can get lost in the noise. It can just get drowned out. So, but what you can say is, hey, I'm seeing a lot of product focused stuff here. You know, they've got this thing here, this big boat, they've got this big tool here. our advantage is the people. So maybe instead of putting our product forward, I might put some ads that show our customer service team, our design team, and really just put those people forward because, again, people work with people. We want to promote that and put that out there. You can review some of the ad copy as well. What are they talking about? How are they trying to get people to engage? And again, just make some notes on that. On the Facebook side of things, so it's branded Meta, but I think they still actually call it the Facebook ad library. Similar functionality here. You just put in a company. Again, I use Grainger here. And you can take a look at the various ads that they've been running. It will tell you when they started running it, but again, they won't give you too much additional details as far as how long did it run, how many impressions. But you can see that they also ran it across multiple platforms like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. So there's a lot of good information in here. Again, at this point, you're kind of just getting a sense for, are they active? Yes or no. But then how are they then active? Are they pushing products and services? Are they pushing just maybe some knowledge? Maybe they put out a webinar, and they wanted to promote it and get people to view it and interact with it. But what are they trying to promote? And then how are they doing it? So what's the messaging behind it? What is the call to action? So this is a lot of shop now, which again makes sense. Grainger, big e-commerce kind of platform. They want to get people to buy things. So maybe you can take a different approach and just try to get people to interact with maybe you have a really good knowledge center, some good case studies, technical sheets, things like that you can promote. All right, then taking a look at social media, as I mentioned before, this is kind of more on the organic side of this, and this just kind of requires, I call it some good old-fashioned sleuthing. You kind of just have to head to their page, review their past posts, again, pay special attention to any posts that have high quantities of likes and comments. If they're just shouting into the void, that's not really useful to you. You can still gain some insights into, hey, they were really trying to push this. It just didn't really seem to work very well. It didn't connect with the audience. But really you want to say, okay, what is actually engaging with the community? What is getting people to, again, engage and connect? And then what can we capture from that? What learnings can we take from that to put into our strategy? The second step is to just follow them. Sometimes you just have to kind of stalk your competition. So that will help you stay informed on any future posts that happen. And again, it just keeps you kind of up to date on their activity. All right, apologies there. All right, next up is content. So again, this one, I want to caution, just you don't really want to get stuck in the weeds on this because it is an incredibly manual process. There are probably some tools out there. I can't really vouch for any of them. I've tried some over the years and I don't think they're very effective. But what you can do is just say, okay, I really want to take a look at just, do they do these particular channels? Things like, do they have a blog section? Do they have videos that they post regularly on a YouTube channel? Do they have a podcast? And maybe one step further to say, okay, what type of content are they putting out there? Is it how-tos? Is it reviews? Is it comparing, side-by-side comparison type content? You really kind of don't want to get too much more in depth with that. Things like word counts and that type of stuff can just get you can kind of almost get paralysis by analysis, or analysis paralysis. I don't know what the phrase is, but you can just put so much data into one spot that it doesn't really become effective. So again, the goal here is not to get ideas like, hey, I can write a blog post about this. It already exists, but you can get a better understanding of what is being an effective content format, as well as that type of content. So again, if maybe there isn't a lot of really good case studies out there in your industry, you can really focus and put an effort on developing those and putting them out. All right, next up, when you take a look at a website, again, what I kind of recommend mostly is to just develop several use cases. So kind of put yourself in the shoes of your customer and try to use your website with that in mind. I'm here trying to research a service, or I'm trying to request a quote, or I'm just trying to even just access your content and consume it. How well do those link together? So put those kind of together and then go through your website, your competitors' websites, and try to do all those things and just gain some insights into, hey, this was really frustrating on our website. It took 6 clicks to get to this one thing, but a competitor made it really seamless, had a really nice little quote cart they were able to utilize, a really good user experience. Those are things that you can then put into an overall plan where you can fix those issues that are on your site, or even just look for ways to incorporate good things that you saw on the competition. Again, when it comes to a user's experience on a website, I'm all for copying it. Now, if it's just like, hey, I really liked this picture they used, that's a different type of copying, not really into that. But if you're really just saying like, hey, we can make our quoting process so much more seamless if we just implemented this thing that I saw over here. If you start to pull all of those little pieces that you really like from across your industry, you can really develop a best-in-class website. All right, and then last section here, again, just taking a look at reviews. So just as mentioned before, the people in buying positions are younger. They're used to using things like Amazon and reading reviews. I know my wife will just spend hours and hours looking at reviews for the simplest of purchases, but these types of things do bleed over then into work. So looking at things like Google, Facebook, and Yelp, those types of websites where people can leave reviews, try to gather some insights into some pain points that they have, or even just things that they, hey, the competitor A, they're always raving about X. Make notes of those types of things to say, okay, this is something that we can either take advantage of or that we can maybe take a different spin on to push ourselves forward. So again, you want to identify those opportunities where you can update your marketing message to speak to those and take advantage of some of the weaknesses that you're seeing in the competition. Now, the goal here is not to lie about it. So if everybody's complaining like all their deliveries are always late, they never make it on time, but you suffer the same problem, you can't just go out there and say, hey, 100% on time delivery. That's going to also create some friction down the road. The goal here is to say, no, we do have great delivery, on-time delivery. Competition struggles with it. I want to put that message forward. All right, so turning those insights into strategy. This is where you kind of put everything together. So when you complete the audit and you take a look at all of this data, it's easy to just be like, all right, audit's done. Let's just start doing some things. But you really do need to actually take those insights, those opportunities, and put them into a plan. So we've looked through these different channels. The one thing I will say, I mean, everybody's got limited resources. That's just a fact of the matter, regardless of the industry that you're in. But knowing your resources and capabilities are going to allow you to select the channels that you should be utilizing in your strategy. If social media is an opportunity, but you don't really have anybody internally to do it, you either need to find a way to do something different, or you can say, all right, maybe I need to engage with an agency. Maybe I need to hire somebody part-time, something along those lines where I need to make sure that I actually have a resource. You can't just say, all right, this is the channel that I'm using no matter what, if you don't have anybody that's knowledgeable in it or any way to actually execute it. So again, review those channels. And then what I will also encourage is to look for ways to, I call it cross-channel marketing, just figure out ways that you can maximize your output. So for example, if you take the time to write a blog post, you shouldn't just publish it to the website, kind of do this and say, all right, on to the next thing. Figure out, is this something I should promote with social ads? Can I repurpose this into an email newsletter that we do? Can I optimize this for search marketing so that long term I can make sure that traffic keeps coming to my website from this post that I took the time to write? The worst thing that you can do with marketing, especially with limited resources, is kind of just check things off and move on to the next. So really making sure that you're understanding how these things can impact each other across channels is really going to help just eliminate a lot of workload on your end, because you'll have already done a lot of that work. But if you're writing a blog post from scratch and then an email newsletter from scratch, putting out a video that's completely unique, all of those things, it just takes a lot of time, and it can just slow down your ability to deliver it quickly. And then also just things can get disjointed as well. Well, you've got a blog post on this topic over here, a video over here, and then you put out a webinar on this topic, and it just seems disjointed, whereas you can just kind of align things a little bit better, save yourself some time, and still put out some quality content. The other thing to keep in mind as you're putting your strategy together is to really consider the buyer's journey. So not every interaction is going to be transactional. Obviously, it would be lovely if you could just put out an ad campaign, everybody's ready to buy, they click your ad, they fill out a form, or they buy a product, but that's not the case. Again, especially on the B2B side of things, there's a lot of awareness, a lot of consideration that needs to happen. So understanding the output. So if it's a piece of content, what stage of the buyer's journey does it exist at? And then understanding the channels that are best for delivering those. So if I've got something in the awareness phase, I might make sure that I'm using social ads or paid search to make sure that I can get it out there, get in front of new people, as opposed to if I'm putting out a piece of content like a case study, that's maybe a little bit more towards the purchasing side of things. I might need to actually get this in the hands of my sales reps put it out there so that they can get in front of people who are ready to purchase at that stage of the journey. There's a lot of stuff here, and obviously I'm not going to cover all of this, but this is just something that we utilize internally to kind of help us see kind of the bigger picture over time. What are we working at on each channel? How do they align with each other? When do things get published so that other channels can take advantage of those? Spreadsheets, I'm a big spreadsheet person. That might just be a deficiency of mine, but I do like them to be able to see everything in one kind of area and be able to say, all right, I've got this piece of content that's happening right now. Where can I then piece that into a design piece or a paid marketing campaign? Something along those lines, just to develop a roadmap from point A to point B. Here's all of the different things we're going to do across different channels and when it's going to happen. Again, that helps kind of put it all together into a bigger plan. All right, next up, so you've done your audit, you've got a plan in place. The next key piece is the tracking side of things. So we already talked about Search Console and analytics. Those are two key pieces for measuring marketing performance, absolutely. But those tools can really only go so far. They don't get you into, hey, Howard over at Widget Corp came to our website, looked at these 5 pages, and then bought a product from me, because there's all sorts of legal issues. Google Analytics doesn't want personally identifiable information. So there is a little bit of a disconnect between marketing activity on your website and actual contracts being signed. So things like a CRM, Salesforce being kind of the big dog there, but things like HubSpot and Pipedrive, there's a lot out there that at various price points that can help you close that loop between those leads that your marketing is generating and the contracts that are getting signed. So what this allows you to do then is to not just say, hey, our marketing efforts generated 50 leads for us last month, but then this tool will then say, okay, those 50 leads were these particular contacts. Here's how many went to the contract phase. Here's how many got closed. And then you can start to tie some revenue back to that marketing and really justify some of the things that you're doing. And it can also help you then determine some future investments and say, hey, we saw a lot of success behind paid search. We should invest some more in that in 2026, 2027, and beyond. The next key step here is to then set those marketing goals. So the key here, I always recommend you look back in order to look forward. Your past performance is really going to help inform the goals that you set, because you do need to make sure that it's realistic. You know, if you say, hey, I want to generate 50 leads a month from my website, and historically you've generated 1, you're not going to be able to, again, just flip a switch and be able to do that instantly. So being able to say, okay, we're at 1 today. By the end of this 12 months, I think it's realistic that with these marketing channels in mind, we can get ourselves to 10 a month. And then from there, we can continue to build on that and get up to 20, et cetera, et cetera. So making sure that you're setting those realistic goals. I also like to start with revenue a lot of times. If you say, hey, how much do we need to generate from marketing for these efforts to be worth the investment? Then you can start to work your way backwards. So if I need $10 million of revenue, the average contract value is $1 million. That means I need 10 new contracts in. How many leads do I need to get in order to get 10 signed contracts? How many people do I need to get to my website to get those leads, et cetera, et cetera. So you can kind of work your way back to be able to say, okay, here's what my traffic goal is for my website based on the amount of leads that I need to get. Here's what my lead target is based on the amount of contracts I need signed, et cetera. So set those goals and then track them. So this is a screenshot from, it's called Looker Studio. It's another Google tool. Again, that's free. It integrates with things like analytics. I think there are some third-party integrations with a lot of CRMs that are out there. But basically, this just helps visualize your data, pulls it all into one place. Yes, you can log into analytics, you can log into Salesforce, you can see all of those independently report on results, but you can also pull it all together. Other things you might have heard of Power BI or Tableau. It's a similar, it's much more scaled down version because as I said, it is free, but it allows you to visualize it. So you can set goals by service, you can set goals by channel, and then you can track your progress a long time as far as, okay, we needed to get 30 building controls leads. Where are we at to that goal as of today? So again, tracking that, reviewing those results is going to help you determine, have we been successful, or do we need to maybe change our strategy because we're falling behind where we should be at this point. All right, so I covered a lot here. So again, the key takeaways: start with an audit. That's reviewing your efforts, the competitive landscape, your customers' needs, and then putting a strategy together to help meet all of those areas. So find where you're deficient, where do we move forward, how do we connect with the audience, how do we generate leads, and then execution. I mean, that's I can't hammer this home enough. You can think about the best way to do things forever, but until you actually do it, it's not really going to impact the bottom line. And again, that sounds very straightforward and very obvious, but the amount of times, I know we're guilty of it internally as well, where we just kind of sit and talk about, okay, this is the best way, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. But I'll take execution over strategy every time. Perfect world, you do the strategy first, you execute against it. So again, once that plan's in place, get to work and then track it, and then set those goals and analyze. So see what those results are, and just, did you meet the things that you set out to achieve? And if not, how can you then modify your strategy moving forward to make sure that you do hit those goals in the future? All right, I know I covered a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to post.
Well, looks like we might not have any questions.
That's fair. And as I said, we'll provide this, we'll follow up with this presentation that's got my contact information in there. So again, if you have a more specific question to ask, you can always reach out directly.
All right. Sorry, we dropped somebody out. They came back in, but I just want to do a big thanks to Justin for leading today's session. Great job. And we really appreciate the time and insight you shared with us. A video recording of this webinar will be sent out to everyone who registered shortly, and it'll also be on our YouTube channel for you to revisit and share. So if there are no questions, I think we're good. We'll go ahead and sign off then. And once again, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.